Okay, we will just have a quick introduction of the panelists for today's discussion. And the topic is breaking the limitations of gender inequalities. With us today is Pooja Khandelwal. She is the Director, Career Retention, Navigation and Transition at the University of British Columbia in Canada. Pooja has a master's in business administration. She's a master certified coach and a certified mentor coach. She's currently the director, career retention, navigation, and transition at the University of British Columbia, UBC in Canada. She began her coaching journey in 2007, becoming one of the first credentialed coaches in India after moving to Vancouver, Canada. She was hired into the first full-time internal coach position at the UBC. She served on the ICF Vancouver chapter as the director for Coach Giving. During her tenure, they pioneered the leadership Coach Giving program that won the International Coach Federation's award for innovative initiative for 2 consecutive years in 2014 and 15. Welcome, Pooja, to Coacharya's Awake, Aware, Arise conference. Do you want to say a quick hi?
Hello, everyone, and I'm really excited to be with this illustrious panel and ready to roll with Cindy.
Great. Then we have on the panel Cleopas Chiketa. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Cleopas. He's the Deputy Director, Human Resources for the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, Certified Professional Facilitator and Business Executive Coach. He is the Vice President of the Institute of People Management of Zimbabwe, a Fellow of the Institute of Coaching, and the member of the International Coaches Federation, USA. He is the Chairman of the Zimbabwe Health Interventions Board, Vice President of the Institute of the People Management of Zimbabwe, Board Member and Finance Committee Chairperson of the Africa Executive Coaching Council. He's a Deputy Director, Human Resources for the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. Cleopas works with C-suite executives in coaching and believes that coaching is a key enabler for leaders in executing strategy, and that HR plays a critical role in steering results and entrenching a high-performance culture. He's also a golfer and contributes to empowerment of the youths in generating a future pipeline. Great. Welcome, Cleopas.
Thank you, Smita. And I'm happy to be on this panel and looking forward to a great discussion with the panelists as well as our moderator, Cindy.
Great. Is Namrata still there, or she's not able to connect, I think? Okay.
I'll talk to her in the background. You go ahead.
Sure.
You can introduce her. I'll just talk to her in the background, okay?
Sure, Cindy. Next, we have Harpreet Kuman. She's an organizational development architect, diversity and inclusion strategist, and a professional certified coach from the ICF, and a speaker. She is the head of learning and organizational development at Raymond Limited. She enables the organization to fulfill its vision by building capabilities and inclusive organization culture. She's coming with a rich experience of 20 years, spans into leading transformation across domains, re-engineering learning and organizational development systems, and readying internal startups and established organizations for the future. She's worked with leading global and Indian brands across different life stages, a big champion for diversity initiatives, led Project Shakti that empowered 300 women through a journey of self-exploration, developing an understanding of Shakti, within offering them new paths towards personal and professional development of a fulfilling direction through cooperative systematic exploration, which translated into a more engaged workforce. Welcome, Harpreet. It's great to have you, though I know you just mentioned that you're joining from a hotel in Dubai.
Thank you, Smita. I think that was a very generous introduction. And as I always say, I feel I'm a gypsy at soul and stuck in corporate clutter. Just share a lot of stories and styles to share, and here I am. So thank you so much, and really look forward and excited for this discussion with Cindy and other panelists.
Great. Okay, next we have Dr. P.V. Ramanamurthy. He's qualified in law, advanced human resource management, executive coaching, transformational leadership, and change management. He's an alumni of the INSEAD and has a PhD in strategic human resource management. Dr. Murthy currently serves as the Executive Vice President and Global Head Human Resources at the Indian Hotels Company Limited, IHCL, the finest hospitality chain and the oldest company of the prestigious Tata Group. As a member of the senior leadership teams at IHCL, Dr. Murthy handles a broad spectrum of initiatives aligned to leadership development, organizational culture, sustainability, strategy, ethics, and Tata Business Excellence across 175 hotels spanning 4 continents. He's also heads human resources function for other group companies like Roots Corporation, Taj Sats, which is a JV partnership company with the Singapore Airlines. Before joining Taj, Dr. Murthy served the Coca-Cola company in various capacities for a period of 15 years. PV, as he's fondly called by his friends and colleagues, is a passionate writer and a senior faculty member at Josh Bersin Academy. He's been recognized as a level 1 thought leader by JBA, recently being a qualified practitioner coach from Noble Manhattan and a certified Enneagram and immunity change coach. He believes in unlocking human potential and helping organizations to succeed. Welcome, PV.
Thank you, Smita. Thank you very much for that generous introduction. And I'm so very happy to meet all my fellow panelists. And I want to thank Cindy for this great opportunity. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. All over to you, Cindy, for this brilliant discussion on this topic, which is from ages it's been there. So looking forward for some wisdom.
Thank you, Smita, and to my amazing panelists, and looking great too. So I'm just going to do a bit of framing what would happen in today's session. In a few minutes, you're going to hear from each panelist, and they're going to share with you experiences, strategies, plans on their, how they move forward within their companies and for themselves within the space of gender inequalities. We'll also talk about limitations and the experiences on how we could break limitations. And we'll then, thereafter, so while the panel's speaking, and each one would take a turn for about 10 minutes to do so, we won't take questions from the from our participants or the attendees. We'll just hold your questions, so please go ahead and type it onto the chat box and in the Q&A box. We'll hold it for a bit later. After our panelists have spoken, we are going to do an open discussion, and your questions, panelist questions, are all going to roll into a thought-provoking discussion. And then after, we'll do closing comments and close the session. Just a little bit about the topic today. As Smita has mentioned, gender inequality has been there, and it's been quite a thorny topic for many people seeking to just to understand more about each other's biases, limitations, prejudice, and discrimination around it. And it's not always easy to adjust mindsets and patterns of traditional thinking and doing. And also, it's not easy to adjust habits that we have formed and behaviors attached. But some organizations, companies, government, individuals, etc., are leading and making strides in addressing gender inequalities. And today, we will hear from some on their successes, experiences, learning, and so on. And we're hoping to help create some inspiration and more an open space for sharing current and for future change. And just also to do some kind of a placement here, our discussion here is not to tell, not to preach or settle any historical scores. Please consider this as a safe space where you can pose questions you may hesitate to ask elsewhere. We all want to see change. We're all in this together. I'm going to now hand over to our first speaker. And, a woman, and you've heard about her from Smita, but I just want to say this. She's a woman who's made lots of strides, and not just for herself, within the leadership space of how she's worked with others. I'd like to hand over to Harpreet.
Thank you, Cindy. It's a pleasure being with you and along with the co-panelists. So thank you for this opportunity. So before I start, I think it's a delight to see two gentlemen in this gender inequality panel. This is the first time probably I'm in D&I panel with two gentlemen. So thank you so much. And thanks, Cindy, for making this happen. So I would share basis my experience. That is my story. So for me, today, as I stand and as I talk to you, I see two key problems. One, representation of women in the leadership. And number two, there's a huge pay gap. And I see these two issues as very complex problems. And for a complex problem, you can't have a simple solution like celebrating Women's Day, having a 2 days conscious bias training, or having sanitary pads in the washroom, or issuing menstrual leave policy, or just fixing policies. These simple solutions will not work in my view. They haven't worked for a complex problem like this, which originates back from a patriarchal system in society. Yeah. So how we worked back in Raymond is what I can share. Now that we've really come up with great results, we're on the way and long way to go. As I often say, I work in a company where we make men look good. Our tagline is complete man. And here I talking about, diversity. So for us, we were very clear, inclusion first, diversity later, right? And we said, we will come up with a holistic and a systematic approach and not just have ad hoc trainings and setting up policies. When I was talking to my group president HR, he says, you know what, we can just set a policy and agree onto it in a second and roll it out. But that doesn't work. That hasn't worked. And when we embarked on this journey, I made an attempt to do a bit of research across. And I'm like, why? There's so many companies, they're making several attempts and there's several D&I initiatives happening. Then why is that I still don't see women in the leadership? Where is the gap? So in my view, and what I feel, that three things which really need to be taken care of. And the first thing first is culture. For the underrepresented group, and here we're talking about gender, to thrive, they need a culture where they feel safe to start with. Safety comes first, where they can trust others, where they feel respected, where they feel heard, right? And the culture is not what happens in the boardroom or what gets signed in the papers. That is exactly what is happening right now. Culture is what the underrepresented group, women and the other gender, they're experiencing in the hallway or in the lobby. That's the real culture, and that is something which needs to get addressed. Which means the role has to go beyond HR. HR is just facilitator. It has to be business agenda. D&I agenda has to be agenda of each and every leadership. Each leadership has to demonstrate, has to role model these key behaviors. It could be as small as that, while we say, yes, we're hiring women, but a casual remark, oh, for this role, I think, maybe men is more suited. We really need to role model what we're writing, the policies that we're saying. Small example, where there's a cake cutting happening, a typical stereotype is like, I haven't seen in my experience, and automatically women come forward to cut the cake. Can we break the stereotype? Can we have leaders breaking and doing that? So these are small things. Number two, language has to be reframed. The language that we're talking, the language that we're writing, the language we're seeing in the systems, we are talking different than the policies that we're having and the intent that we have in our mind. And three, which I largely believe, and that is something which I try to incorporate back in Raymond, is I'm a hardcore believer of appreciative inquiry. And David Cooper, as he says, you focus more on what you attract what you focus on, right? So believe in sharing positive deviant stories. And there are enough and enough stories. And that's where, we came up with this program. When we embarked this journey, we said, we will focus on inclusion, and we will focus on telling women that, one is we wait for the world to change around us, and the second is we create a change inside. And therefore, we launched this program called Shakti. Shakti in Indian mythology is energy. It's like both yin and the yang. It's masculine and feminine. So what they're trying to say is that both of them are present inside you. You need to see which is dominant and which needs to show up. And we spread over 15 months, no lectures, no PPT, no slides. Very simple role modeling of stories. We had about 10 forms of Shakti, which is Kali, Durga, nothing religious about it. We just picked up the trait. For example, Kali was fighting inner demons. So we said, okay, let's get some ordinary women outside Raymond premise who became extraordinary. And how did she fight the inner demon? And a combination of internal Raymond Shaktis, as he said, there were enough women inside who have fought inner demon in their lives. So we said different stories have to be told. If there's a woman who has, been raised by a family where there was a male dominant voice, we have to change the story for her. So the basic logic behind Shakti was role modeling through stories and getting internal and external women. And each Shakti had a trait attached to it. And this was followed by reflection and journaling. So this was a 15-month program, and we had men as allies. And we were very clear. When I go and talk, everybody says, Harpreet, we're there with you. I said, no, I don't want you to say that you're there with me. I want you to be talking about the problems. First, I want you to be understanding about the problems, and then talking about them when we are not around. That is the true allyship, is what we're looking at. So we had about 180 leaders, having an ally for these 300 women. And we had some great results, and it's a long journey to go. So that is, around the positive stories that we spoke about. And a couple of things came out of this, which maybe later I would share. Second, so first is the culture, as I said. Second, most important, I don't know, most of you might not agree. And I feel that it's extremely important to have targets. If we don't have targets, we will not have women. As I believe in Ruth Berg's principle, wherever decision is being taken, women has to happen. And we need to have targets and talent, no compromise on talent. But unless we have target, we will not make an effort to find talented women. And there are enough talented women. So I think that really needs to be taken care of and worked upon. And very often when I speak about this to the leadership team, which is largely men, back in my organization, I get to hear reverse discrimination. And I always say, you know what? We will take care of reverse discrimination later. Can we address the existing discrimination, which is prevailing right now? Because unless we have the right number of women, right, we really do not know. So I think a combination of numbers and plus talent, no compromise, and a culture. And also, if you see the companies who are doing very well, like Unilever and Barclays and stuff, there are targets along with talent. They do not compromise on talent. And thirdly, the last point, which I would say, in my view, which is extremely important, is mid-pipeline. So what happens is the HR gets into a target of hiring. The hiring is not about, so the entry level, you will see that we have 50% of the women and 50% of the men. What happens? Everybody fizzles out. So that's the time women need a lot of mentorship, a lot of coaching, a lot of allies, a lot of business sponsorship. Nothing is happening there. And therefore, we have very little women to promote at the top. And then my question to the leadership team is, and to the companies who are doing so much of D&I initiatives, if you're doing so many D&I initiatives for so many years, where is the pipeline? You still have to hire women externally at the top. So I think that is a broken rung in the middle. That is somewhere which we really need to be working on. So 3 things: culture, having targets, along with talent, no compromise. And third is the mid pipeline. Is that what we need to be working on? And that's where HR has to get going. and get business sponsors. It has to be a business agenda. It cannot be an HR agenda. And the intent has to move to action. So that's from my side.
Some really lovely strategies that came up there. And we'll speak a bit later about your experiences around other little pieces. I'll pick that up with you later. But Alfred, it's very easy to see why you were awarded Women Icon of the Year. Yeah.
So Cindy, so one thing I would like to say, with all due respect, and let me tell you, I've always been supported by men. So I really say we need men allies. I have been supported by men and unfortunately not by women. That is a different topic which we will address sometime later. What I'm trying to say is, change inside you is much faster. I'm not willing to give up. I'm not willing to wait for things to change around me for me to. And so the work also around Shakti was self-work on women. While we were working on having men allies and working on the culture, that will take time. That's uprooted in the DNA. So parallel work is to make women realize that you have it in you. It's inside you, and you need to show up.
Yeah, I love that approach. All stakeholders are involved. Our next speaker is PV, and I have to say this about PV. He's a vice president of an hotel group that I absolutely love, the Taj Hotel Group. I feel quite indulgent as a woman in the hotel space. I'll let PV tell you a bit more about the hotel and his experiences around the Taj Group and the changes they have made. PV, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Cindy. Thank you for having me on this panel. And I'm so very happy and excited to have this conversation on gender equality. Smita made a very, very interesting point at the beginning. She said something like, these inequalities existed for ages, and you supported that point when you were speaking. It's been true. In my experience, what I have seen within the corporates, please allow me to structure my discussion under 2 or 3 buckets. And I'll talk about the philosophy with which we operate as an organization. What do we do to bring that philosophy to life? And also, quote some of the best practices. So to begin with, in order to address these inequalities, what we do is, we focus on culture. Harpreet spoke about culture. She was so very right in saying that it is not HR's responsibility, it is the organization's responsibility. HR facilitates the whole thing. Like the finance head, the CFO takes care of finances, HR's role is fundamentally to take care of the culture within the organization. And how do we do that? We actually put our focus on inclusion. It's not diversity and inclusion. What comes first is inclusion. Let me explain this to you. What is inclusion? Inclusion is not about men and women. It's not about differences in gender or promoting one gender. It's all about respecting a human being as a human being. That's our philosophy, Go down to the level of a human being. We are all human beings on this panel discussion, irrespective of the gender. So that's the philosophical construct. And when we speak about the values, let's look at it from this perspective. Organizations, when they speak about culture, they speak about a performance culture. They say that it's command and control culture or a hierarchical culture. But have you ever heard of an organization saying that our culture is an inclusive culture? That's where we come in, and that's what we strive to put in. And the values that are coming out of this inclusive culture, the first thing is integrity. Integrity is what, from our perspective, from the way we define it, is the way you think, what you say, the speech and the action should be aligned. Now let's look at this together. If inclusion is respecting a human being as a human being, if integrity is what you say, what you think, what you say, and what you do are three aligned, that means that this is an action value for us. Integrity is an action value. Whatever you think about inclusion, that should get converted into an action item. Whatever you say, whether it is pay inequalities or not having enough women in the leadership roles, you need to action that one. This is where the integrity part is very, very important for us. The third thing is diversity. Diversity is the gender diversity comes next. The diversity is respecting and valuing or acknowledging different thoughts, different races, different religion. It's the diversity as a wholesome thing is what we consider as our value. Flowing out of this inclusion, integrity, and diversity, what we focus on gender diversity. This is where we know that the inequalities in gender are so big. So we need to take certain actions to build that inequalities. So again, what are those actions do we take? It sounds a bit ridiculous, but I'm going to tell as to what was our experiences at the workplace. We began with a very, very small thing at the workplace. It was having a crash facility in all the hotels we operate, in India, outside India. Several years back, we said that we need to have a crash facility. It's a male-dominated society, male-dominated organization, like many other organizations. Many people came back. The general manager said that we don't have any women in that age group of having children, or we don't have any such small children to our employees. Why should we have a crash facility? Our answer to them was that this is mandatory because this helps to attract women into our organization. It's not necessary whether you have space in the hotel or not. You can convert one of the rooms into a crash. Now I can proudly say that we have a crash facility in all the offices, in all the hotels across the globe. We do that. And how does this resulted in an inclusive mindset? The second, leadership development. Normally, when we talk about changing the culture, it is, the culture flows from the top. We all know that. We started putting focus on the top leadership, and we started having the inclusive meets. It is called a culture meet, but the fundamental aspect is, get different sets of people into the organization. You need to have men, women, transgender, and people of all age groups, so that different voices are heard in those meetings. That's what we did. And also in terms of our leadership development, we have the model which focuses on humility, humanity, humor, and hope. This is all goes into the inclusive mindset, what I talked about. So this is how we started correcting the culture. Next comes, what Harpreet also touched upon, taking certain core actions to improve the gender at the workplace. One is, do we have the critical mass at the workplace? Do we have enough number of women at the workplace? That's where, it's when we go to the campuses, many times we get 60% or even 70% women versus 30% or 40%. We are correcting the gender inequality there. When we hire people into the organization, do we have equal number of applications from the women? And we give some 2% extra to the consultants who give us those additional CVs of women. So these are the actions which resulted in improvements in the percentage of women at the workplace. Plus the other important thing, a few years back when we looked at the business strategy, we said, mutual respect is our business strategy. Again, look at it from the perspective of inclusion. Are we respecting women, or are we taking some superficial actions? In many organizations, what I have seen is it's always take 4 steps forward on gender diversity and 3 steps backwards. And that's the reason why this inequality exists for the last several centuries. So if we want to correct that one, correcting the culture is the first thing. The second thing is taking actions like having critical mass at the workplace and having the right kind of facilities and having the right kind of mindset. And finally, I'll come back and discuss some of these points later. I was reading this case study about Mirvac, MIRVAC, an Australian property company. They also focused on simple things. You know, the lady CEO, what she did was in a construction site, she said that, you know, how do we have, what is that simple thing you could have to have work-life balance? She wanted to correct the gender inequalities at the workplace. And, you know, it became a huge success. So I would request all the participants on this call to just Google in and type MIRVAC. The case study is available, Mirvac on flexible working hours. So the point here is when we put focus on small things and try to change the culture around that, what results is, you know, an equality in gender and giving enough respect to all genders. You know, this is where I would stop, and I'll come back and discuss some of these points. And thank you, Cindy.
PV, may I suggest that you put that link into the chat box, please?
Absolutely, I will do it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I love what you were, some of the points that you raised, which I'll pick up a bit later. I'm going to hand over to our next speaker, Cleopas, my South African neighbor from Zimbabwe. And of course, it's far more than that. It's, you know, we've been friends and colleagues for quite some time now, working on different projects. Also got to say this, you know, Arpreet raised this point about seeing two men on this panel. The advice I got when putting this panel together was, you shouldn't include men on this panel. And I said, why not? Men have worked equally hard in many industries at working on gender inequalities and going about making those changes. We cannot talk about inclusiveness and not include them in the work that we're doing. So here we go. I am proud that we have two men on this panel. And of course, I take a bow to all the other men out there that are making a change with gender inequalities. Cleopas, over to you.
Thank you, Cindy. And thanks to panel that have gone before me. I think the issue that we are discussing here is a hot topic, and we need to talk about it. We need to do something about it. I know it has been talked about for a long time, and action is required from a corporate perspective, from a national perspective, to make sure that we have an inclusive society. Like PV said just a few minutes ago, I like that bit. So you notice that women have been excluded for a long time. And I know there have been strategies to try to get them on board and to make sure that they're able to contribute to the value of economies, to the value of organizations in various sectors. But there's something that is standing on their way, as you see in that slide. A number of things would be standing on their way. And I remember I was even talking about it to someone as I was reflecting around this COVID environment that we have been operating in. School has gone virtual, and we then realized that women are very strong even in doing teaching of children, and they are patient more than men are. And in my country, I think we have been seeing the same pattern where women will be saying, yes, I appreciate my wife more this time because I'm seeing her playing a critical role even within the context of assisting kids moving on. I'll just quickly talk around some of the research that has been done and my observations around issues of gender equality. President Obama says research has shown that diverse groups are more effective at problem solving than homogeneous groups, and policies that promote diversity and inclusion will enhance our ability to draw from the broadest possible of talent. Solve our toughest challenges, maximize employee engagement and innovation, lead by example, setting a high standard for providing access to opportunity to all segments of our society. And I totally agree with him. The issue to me is a sociological one. You find that there is no society which will have.
Did we lose sound from Cleopas?
Yes, I think so.
Cleopas, we have lost your sound.
Sorry, I know I was muted from my machine here. Which part did you last hear?
Go back to talking about Obama when you spoke about just after that. Yeah. Okay, this is good.
Okay, thanks. So I was just saying, from a sociological perspective, you find that we have a society that comprises of generations as well as all genders. So at the end of the day, a workplace that is not an epitome of or an equivalent of an ideal society will find difficulties to achieve its strategic results. That's my own view. So at the end of the day, we need to make sure that the workplace has got all the people represented. And working in the financial service sector, I've worked in telecoms. I've also worked in manufacturing industry, and I've seen different pictures in terms of gender equity. And I was more like driving at it from the time that I joined the workplace. And I've seen that when you drive the issue of women, the agenda of women, and having women contributing to the economic value, you will see that it will definitely demonstrate results. Research by the IMF shows that women occupied less than 2% of bank CEO positions and less than 20% of board seats in more than 80% of the observations across banks over time. But you find that econometric analysis is also showing a different picture. It's showing that controlling for the relevant banks and country-specific factors are coming through. The presence of women is also a key issue that is being looked into with a more emphasis on getting women on boards, women in executive positions, and research is also showing value coming out of that. Women are a larger segment of the workforce. Women make up 60% of college graduates, as reported by Stanford, and 47% of the current workforce, and is reported by the U.S. Bureau of Labor. But you find that research also shows that once women make up more than 50% of a team, the team's collective intelligence rises above average, which shows you that there's some value, great value that come out of women. And when I was looking at it, I generally look at this performance equation, which says performance is equals to potential minus interference. So I was looking at it from a macro perspective, where I was just saying performance of institutions, performance of nations is equal to the potential of those nations or companies, but also minus interference. And the interference factor in this regard becomes the issues of gender inequality. And we need to be looking at this. We need to be saying, how is this affecting us, and what do we ought to do? Why inclusion of women is key to me. Number one, you find that from a personality perspective, women are nurturing. One thing that I would also highlight, I think Cindy has actually introduced me and said, we have been working on a number of things. One thing that I appreciate is two of my mentors in coaching has been women, Cindy being one of them. And they have been very instrumental in driving my development. Where I've been lagging, they have been pushing me to bring out the best out of me. I've also found that women are focused. When women say we are going for something, they go for it, and they manage it. The other component that I have also looked at it from a psychological perspective, that women have got higher resilience. And when you look even in our own context, I've seen that women can bear a number of facets, and they can drive things from a multifaceted perspective, and they achieve results. I've also seen that women are very enterprising. They apply their minds, they do things, they want to see things moving, they want to deliver value, and they can translate this into corporations. And I think evidence has been showing that. some studies suggest that companies with more women on board members have higher profitability and better stock price performance, as shown in research by the Credit Suisse to 2012 and Catalyst since 2014. And we continue to see the same evidence coming through. I have been studying some information on women development, and I've seen that GDPs seem to be rising with the inclusion of women in the workplace. And that's the picture that we are seeing globally in terms of financial sector. The inclusion of women, percentages are differing, but also you notice that there is value that is coming out of that. Then that is showing not cross sectors, but cross continents, the inclusion of women, the participation of women, and I think we need to be driving value from an African perspective, from an Asian perspective, and drive that inclusion. What should be some of the HR ways to overcome the hurdles? From where I sit, I think we need to be developing policies that address women inclusion. I liked what my fellow panelists said. The first panelist has spoke to us and she challenged us to say, let's have targets. I agree with her totally. To me, let's develop policies of women inclusion. Have a quota system that says by 2021, how much women do we need? I know in our organization, we are trading in the zone of 40% women and 60% men. And we continue to say, let's increase it. We were even doing further analytics, and we saw that when we look at our expo, we have possibly 25% women and 75% men. So we were saying we need to be deliberate as we implement our strategies. As we replace executives, we need to be saying, let's focus on women, but not forgetting talent, like my fellow panelists has indicated earlier on. So I was encouraged by one organization in my country where they were saying we want an HR executive, but we want a woman. So women are competing among themselves and they will get the best talent. And that's the way to go if we're going to achieve value. I also look at issues of leadership development. I recommend that we implement accelerated leadership development programs where we blend coaching and mentorship and also some workshop programs, and we are able to more like focus on specific women. We are saying, let's identify them. Recently, I'm running a graduate leadership development program to increase the leadership bench strength for our organization. And I remember I was observing certain young women that are in our program, and I was saying we need to focus them. For example, in our economic research division, we have less women. I was saying let's drive and get one of the GTs to feed into that pipeline, and we accelerate a development so that she will not follow the normal path, but it will be more like accelerated, and we with a sponsorship model that is critical or that is very clear coming from the organization, that we're able to deliver on our expectations and be able to drive that value. So and as we look at results, also we see that organizations that, according to McCain's, companies in the top quartile of gender diversity are 15% more likely to have financial returns. So at the end of the day, as we discuss this issue, it's no longer an issue of comfort, that we want to be comfortable to have more women, but to me, it's a corporate governance issue, it's a sustainability issue, it's also a key issue around profitability and strategic execution. So we need to focus on it. I like this statement by Tata, which says, on the leadership journey, hand-holding by an experienced mentor can be a vital support to help us grow. Through cross-company mentoring program, we provide opportunities for our women professionals to fulfill their potential and to move up the ladder. So when we begin to have these key, deliberate, focused programs, we will be able to achieve the results that we want. So it's no longer about talking, it's now about how do we do it, how do we measure how we are doing it, and are we doing it? Like now, quite often when I make my presentation, I was making an input into our board, not into our board, but into our annual report, which goes to all stakeholders. And I was talking gender issues. Just yesterday, I was presenting gender dynamics, and I was saying we continue to monitor these metrics and we want to achieve our targeted results. And I believe that it can be achieved as we continue to move on. I will just end it there, Cindy. I believe it can be achieved. I believe as HR has a role to play, and they need to be in the driver's seat as far as this is concerned. Thank you.
You're right. Lots of passion there, Cleopas. I'll share something a bit later. But for now, we're going to hear from Pooja, which I believe, Pooja, in Vancouver or in your part of the world right now, it's around 1 a.m., right?
That's right, Cindy. And I was just, sharing with the other panelists earlier that I hope I don't yawn. And then that entire thought went out of the window because of such an engrossing, insightful conversation going on that I just don't realize it's 1 a.m. So once again, thank you so much. And I'm noticing that the responsibility, or let's say the burden of going last, is to try and, sieve in something more insightful after so much has already been passed. So I'll try and add a couple of more thoughts so that the discussion to follow becomes more interesting. Taking forth from what Smita and Cindy, you began talking about, we at the University of British Columbia, we began having, we started to report on our employment equity maybe 10 or maybe more than that years ago. But it was only about in the past 3 to 4 years that we've begun to pay attention to what that equity report even says. And I guess that began because of the dialogue that started to happen among students and staff and faculty. And according to our latest 2019 equity report, it shows us that 56% of our workforce are women. So that talks about success, right? So it's like, oh, yippee, we have gender equality. But if you were to go a layer below, you realize that 80% of administrative roles are filled by women, and only 2% of the trades are women. So what is that saying about the barriers? It's a stereotypical narrative on gender diversity, because women are known to be good homemakers. Like Harpreet said, when a cake needs to be cut, it's a woman who goes out to cut it. So our administrative roles, where it is all about operations, etc., are 80% filled by women. But trades are typically man-held roles. So that's one of the barriers as I see the stereotypical narrative. Secondly, if you again look at the report, it talks about that nearly 35% of senior leadership roles are held by women. But if you go a layer deeper, these 35% are held by all white women. Less than even 2% would be racialized women. So once again, the next limitation or barrier that I want to put out into this discussion is the intersectional approach to workforce analytics, because we are not having reporting by the intersectionality lens. We are going by, and gender today is no longer binary. It is non-binary. We have LGBTQ2+, we have male, female. So there is so much. There is the indigenous, Black, people of color. There are so many sections. And of course, in North America, the immigrant lens, then the single women lens. So all those layers are not captured by our analytics. And data is one of the biggest forces that gets the eye and the attention of senior leadership. So if we have data, then real policies or big strategic initiatives roll out. So one of the limitations I would say is the intersectional approach to workforce analytics. The other part of data is lived experiences. So if I were to share my personal experience in my role as supporting careers of people across, some of the careers that I have seen, they block when women need to go on mat leave. but dads or men do not take parental leave. And what happens, I have had lived experiences where when a woman goes on a mat leave, while she is away, out of sight, out of mind, there would be promotions or there would be opportunities that come forth, that people who are currently in the workforce get into those positions. So women who need to pay attention to being a holistic person face career discrimination. So even that, and those become the barriers to inclusion, because when we talk about inclusion, our bottom line, our denominator is a white male. That becomes our denominator. In a country like India, it would be male. It may not be, of course, white, but it would be the and so the inclusion, the fit in culture is what we, as all the others, bear the burden of proving ourselves to include into that club or into that ceiling. So breaking into that ceiling, the onus or the burden lies on the other. And that I see as problematic. Inclusion has to be the other way around. I think it was Harpreet who mentioned the allyship. The allyship in action and the sponsorship has to roll from top down. It isn't the burden of women, of racialized minorities, of the LGBTQ+, or the non-binary genders to be finding an inclusion or a fit in culture and integrating with the norm. It is, how do we put that to stand on its head? So I would say that the barriers I noticed, as I said, were some of the stereotypical narratives of women need to do this and men can do this. In finance, you will have more men, whereas in HR, we have 80% women. But as a collective, we would have a 50-50 gender diversity. And then the intersectional approach is kind of a necessity these days, knowing that we are not just women or not just a single mom or not just an immigrant. We wear many, many hats. And finally, it would be, how do we break that the burden of progression lies on the other, so it isn't upon us. And some of the things that we have started to do, and it's all a work in progress, is dialoguing, is opening up communities, starting practices where right from the president to having communities where we come together to have a dialogue. There may not be a solution, but you get to have a voice. You get to normalize somebody's experience as not just being their own. Because I did not realize, and knowing that I came from Mumbai 10 years ago, until I didn't come here, I did not realize my color. Because back in India, I was one amongst everyone. It was when I came here, I realized that there is something off, and I would not know that it is my color because I don't see it. Somebody else sees it. So it was only when I, began my journey here that I realized that there is a different lens to, say, the experience of the marginalized or diverse community. And some of the practices, even within faculty, PV and I were talking about faculty and academia. When women go on mat leave, they are out of the tenure track. Their tenures are over. And that is, it's finite. For women in administrative roles and academic roles, they still have a setback, but they can, flourish later. But in academia, it is absolutely set in stone. So these kind of barriers, what is the ultimate solution? I don't think like all our panelists said, there's no one solution. There needs to be an intersectional approach to many, many of these initiatives. Yeah, I think I'll rest there and hope for some rich discussion to come out and some questions. So over to you, Cindy. Thank you.
Thank you, Pooja. So, participants, and I should have said this earlier on, I will say it now, even though it's late. Also, welcome to all our YouTube viewers. And I would just encourage anybody and panelists and the attendees alike, if you want to raise a question now, please go ahead and do so. You can do it on the chat box, or if you'd like to join us for a few minutes, we will welcome you there too, into our panel. So having listened to us explore some of this topic, what's beginning to emerge is the passion people have for wanting to address inequalities, and also the steps they are taking in moving from inaction into action. And we can see that globally, right? Globally, we can hear this voice or this cry out for some kind of urgency to address any kind of inequalities and discriminations. So I pose a question to the panelists. A lot of times when women experience inequalities, limitations, discrimination, especially in the workplace, they go silent, mostly because they don't know what to say in that moment. So here's the question: what do we do in that moment when we are experiencing something and all of us want to just go silent? Feel free, anybody. I'll treat you on mute.
Happy to jump in. As a coach, I think my response would be say your truth. Because in vulnerability, there is huge strength. And it does not matter the first time, it is bound to be said wrongly, but it comes out of the, one's own practice, one's own comfort in one's own skin. So when we all understand that we are, the experiences that we are having are not just ours, but somebody else in the room could be feeling the same. You are the only one who is voicing it. And that assurance gives you some of the confidence to voice it. Voice it as if it was something you are noticing in somebody else's eye, and make it your own and voice it. But vulnerability is a great strength.
Just to add to that, Cindy, what Pooja said, see, whether it is corporates or societies or even at our homes, how do we make sure that people speak up? Most of the time, people don't speak up because it's the fear of reprimand, or I might be seen as a stupid. So this is the reason why people don't really speak up. So how do we make sure that we encourage people to speak up? If we could begin at our homes. It's societies and corporates would come later, but if we begin with our homes and start encouraging people all around us to speak up. So this is where it is respecting the diversity of thought in all aspects. That's where it begins. And in corporates also, how do we make sure that we encourage people to speak up, provide that safe space that even if they speak up, even if they break their silence and say something about what they felt about something, I think how is it being treated? So that's where it all sits in the culture, and people can over a period of time can really speak up and then change the culture. So that's been. I'll just take one more. Right? I'll just take one more. When I was several years back, I used to work for a steel plant. The theme there was some of the jobs in the steel plant women cannot do. for example, crane operator's job. We all went to SSAB, that's the name of a steel plant in Sweden. We stayed there. There I saw that, the toughest of the jobs were done by women. The overhead crane, lifting the hot ladle and taking it to the other side, these jobs were done by women. We came back to India, sent a few engineers there to that plant to experience the work environment there. They came back fully surprised, saying that, oh, women also can do the job of a crane operator. This is where, making people experience as to, what are you making people to experience? That's where, giving those experiences would bring them out of that silent zone as well, is my belief.
Yeah, absolutely. Afrit?
Okay, so I was just reflecting on, what Pooja and PV said, and I can share based on my experience and what has really worked for me. So I feel one has to speak up, and as an organization. So there are two things. One is as an individual, what I would like to say, and one is, what would work at the organization level. I think enough talking has happened, and maybe I'm getting very restless, when it comes to it. It's extremely important to ensure that women is included. We know that there are enough biases that a woman has. They're low on networking. They will not self-promote themselves. And right now with COVID, everybody has gone behind Zoom, completely out of mind. It's actually worsened for the women, right? So I think, what are we doing to ensure, where are those conscious decisions being made? Okay, meeting is there. Oh, there's no women. Okay, where is that? We need to ensure that if there is some discussion, if there's some decision which is being taken, if there is some problem which is being solved, are we ensuring that a woman is there? One is speak up, but she has to be there at the right place to speak up. So I think that's a platform conscious decision the HR, the whole organization has to make. That is for the organization. Second, to the women, I would say you have to speak up for yourselves. You get invited if you're not being called. If something is being said and you're not liking it, deal it. How I would deal it like any other issue and not make it a gender issue, while I'm being aware that, for example, at some point in time, my manager was not comfortable talking to me, and I knew he's not comfortable. I was the only women direct report, and I knew he's not comfortable talking to me because I'm a woman. Now, I didn't want to make it a women issue. I dealt like any other issue. My issue was that he needs to talk to me. And I said, you know what, is it a problem? Can I do something? I made him comfortable, right? There was a time when, I see that, yes, somebody else took a seat instead of me, my place. I said, okay. And still, I didn't make it a women issue. I addressed it like any other issue. Hey, let's talk about me. It's not about others. So I think it's extremely important as an individual, if you're experiencing it, to speak up in a manner. And like any other issue, all issues don't need to be spoken at the same time, right? And maybe some issues you need to let go. Some issues you need to speak up. And if you don't speak up, nobody else is going to speak up for you.
I love what you said, Alfred, because, it's easy to slip into a victim mentality role instead of the other way around, where you become a bit more empowered and have that conversation. As you're saying, it's about me and not about gender or black and white or anything like that. This is about me and my fit into perhaps the roles or the process. Yeah, what am I arguing for, and stay on track with that versus slipping into, I'm just a woman, I would never get that. And I like what you said earlier on about language. If we just changed our language, even right in the family space, PV also alluded to that. Within the family space, if you begin to change your language, it ripples into the workplace. And I've also seen this scenario where, for example, Opurimas never sees this recording, but he would say something, he would totally respect equality in the workplace with men and women. Gender equality is his thing. He has total respect for it. And I've watched him work from home, and he would have these empowered conversations with females on Zoom, and turn around in the next breath and go, so what are we having for lunch today? You know, it's like we watch our own language, right? Yes, it's habits. And I was saying earlier on, you know, something has become a habit, and we unknowingly create limitations around that, where we pass along to others a way of thinking that we hold as universal: respect, honoring, integrity. And we turn around, and in the home environment, it changes. A bias begins to set in, unknowingly, of course. Pooja, I saw you nodding at that.
You know, I like the way you said about the language, Cindy, because what jumps to mind is what Harpreet was mentioning earlier, appreciative inquiry, that using a learner mindset, that yes, something is triggering for the individual to be voicing something, but at that point, can we stop and have a learner, a curious mindset? Can I ask a question to support a larger understanding, and maybe my perspective might change? So it just made me think when you talked about language that absolutely, you know, we begin, and as coaches, we say, can you ask this in an open-ended question? Because, or can you say what you feel as a question? So yeah, that was my thought.
Absolutely. There's a question here from Vinita. And she says, one of the issues in corporate I have seen is the, I think she meant, inability of women to support another woman.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And she went on to say, most of the places I see women judging another woman, and this has become a comparative process which leads to aggression and discrimination. How do you deal with that?
So I would love to address this, and so very often when I go for DNI seminars, and when I'm interacting with people, I hear this, men have biases and men don't support, and I say, no, pause. If I have to talk about my story, men have supported me, right? I've not been supported by women at all, and which is true. And we say that we women understand each other's issues very well, right? And we're still competing with each other. So if each one of us, we start supporting each other, I think we'll be unstoppable. And I would love to quote this here. I'm taking this opportunity to share this. I'm coaching my peer. We're all competing for the same. And I'm like, if I don't do it, who's going to do that? If I don't understand the pain, who's going to do that? So I think it's extremely important for us to start peer coaching, start supporting other women. And I think we're going to be unstoppable because we all understand emotions. One, we are saying men don't understand their unconscious biases, but women understand. So completely agree. And that is the way to start with immediately.
Absolutely. Cleopas, I think this question here, go ahead, PV, if you want to talk. I just want to raise a question.
Thanks very much. I wanted.
Cleopas, did you get the question? Cleopas, there's a question for you on the chat box. Did you see that?
Yeah. Oh, yes,
Okay.
I'm seeing it. I wanted to add to what Harpreet was saying. I also think the other way of managing this idea of women supporting women is to set up women forums within organizations. So as you do that, you begin to tackle issues, you begin to talk around issues that affect women, and also why it's critical for women to support each other as they move out of a certain zone to their next zone. So I think it will also assist you get some speakers that could come through and talk to the people within your organization, and that will assist.
I think, PV, you also want to say, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering as to why anyone needs to support me. If I ask a question to myself, whether it is men or women, I think that, women need to, whether it is men or women, again, we need to have that confidence on ourselves It is the internal strength rather than an external support from somebody else. So I think that the first step is all other suggestions were very good, but at the same time, women looking deep into themselves and saying that, I will support myself. Yes, human beings as individuals, we need to support ourselves. We need to have that confidence. We should not come as an interference. If potential is performance minus interference, we should not interfere with ourselves. So once we stop doing that, I think probably the whole world would conspire and come and support us. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, lots of self-accountability there. And it's true, because in one of Cleopatra's photos, I think the second one, where he showed men and women on that racetrack, and in front of women, there were all these obstacles. And a lot of obstacles are in the mind also, right? In our internal space. Pooja, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to add to what you're just saying, Cindy, that one of the things that we've done here at UBC is that HR has this coaching program for its employees as a benefit. So we have about 40 internal and an equal amount of external coaches. And so it's a confidential space, speaking about peer coaching, where coaches are doing this work on the side of their full-time job. So they volunteer their services, and there's another employee across the university who are facing any kind of challenges, whether it could be around their confidence, around their voice, discrimination, leader, employee, so whatever might be the issues. And I'm wondering if, something like that as well within organization is a support service for individuals as professionals to work through how they would want and, what would be the impact, so they are able to think through and get themselves coached on what is the right strategy that would work for them best. So do it their way.
Absolutely. Sorry, Alfred, you go first.
Sorry, okay. So just wanting to add, I think enough research is said, and we are aware that women are very self-critical of themselves, right? And we all know that if there's a position which comes out, and unless woman is 100% ready, she's not going to apply for the role. And most of the men would really apply. I've seen that in my team. When there's a role, they will apply. Yeah, Harpreet, I want to do that role. They don't even know what it is, and they'll apply for it. So my point is, I'm talking about equity here, not equality. When we know that men is coded differently, women is coded differently, we know that. So the role of HR should be, can't we proactively reach out to the girl and say, hey, why don't you apply it? And in the end, of course, talent applies. Because when we know the woman is not confident, that is the support. I can say, I am privileged, right? But we need to be aware, I'm privileged, that I don't even sense a bias. But we need to be aware of other women who probably do not have that privilege. And therefore, it is extremely important for us, and there are organizations who are doing that. When an IGP goes out, they will send an extra reminder to the women to apply. So therefore, I feel it's extremely important also, and that's the time where we say where we need mentors, we need a lot of coaching and support. So,
because we're talking about what can we do here to address gender inequalities. A couple years ago, I don't know the exact number of years, I wish I did right now, but it's over 10 years ago, we started this campaign. One of the campaigns to address gender inequalities was take a girl child to work. Many girls that were not girl children were not exposed to the workplace, let alone female adults. So we had this campaign, take a girl child to work, and it was on a specific week or 2 days or something, where girl children were brought into the workplace, into corporates and organizations to give them a sense of it. I think it lasted a week. And many companies embraced it and, took the girl child around to various departments, showing her what workplace was all about. This morning, or from yesterday, I've been reading the gender gap, or the World Economic Forum, they released a new report on gender equality, so the gaps in gender equality. It was very pleasing to note that South Africa had moved up to 17 in addressing gender equalities, where they rated many countries, I think 140 some odd countries. I'll copy the PDF and put the PDF onto the chat box. It's very interesting to note how countries are improving in gender inequalities. I mean, I felt very pleased inside because I didn't think we were doing such a good job until it showed up. Okay, so I want to take a short recap, meaning where are we now in our discussion and what other points could we raise in the next 10 minutes? So let's do the what else are we missing? I mean, it's such a big topic. We obviously can only touch the iceberg and do some kind of inspiring to move forward. Is there a piece that we should be raising right now? Alpreet, I can see it on your face. There is.
So I think I also read one question. I think it's okay. I don't remember the name. Anuradha maybe in the chat box, and she said there are women who are very confident, and at times, they're not able to make an entry to the men world despite being. And I've seen that back in my organization. There are 3 women, and they're really rock solid women, very, very confident. They really believe in themselves, but they still need support. They need business sponsors. So I think, when the organization, starts and say, we want to do D&I activities, I'm like, what's your goal? Do you really want to come across and sound that you're doing a lot of activities? Or what's the outcome you're wanting to achieve? And therefore, I say it's so important to have an outcome and have numbers or something, because if you know that there is a number, there's a target, you will remember if Harpreet goes behind Zoom and it is out of mind, out of sight. You will remember those girls during the lockdown. You will remember the women talent that you don't want to lose. So even women who are confident, they need business sponsors. They need support. And business sponsors is someone who talks about them for roles and, cross-business stuff. So largely, in my experience, what happens is even confident women, at some point in time, they really can't do it. They're stuck there. So answering to the point, I think, Anuradha, that question, yes, that is the time when I said allyship and true business sponsors is really needed to make a change. Otherwise, we'll continue to have these discussions. We'll continue to do the D&I activities.
Yeah, absolutely. I also want to say this because I see Namrata has sent in a message. We had another panelist, and there's heavy rains and storms and a cyclone warning from yesterday in the area, and she's unable to get in. She sends her apologies. I want you to pass that along. Anything else that we need to address? Cleopas?
Yeah, I think the other thing that I would also say from a HR perspective is for us to also get used to issues of addressing gender inequities, we need to look at our project teams. Quite often what I've done is I've looked at our project teams, and every time we are setting up a team, as we look at leadership, I try to check whether there's a lady who can deliver on that project leadership. And then through that, I've seen that now people are getting accustomed to seeing ladies leading them. And as that happens, I think we will be addressing the paradigms, we'll be addressing the core issues that are sitting with people's mindsets, and we begin to break those barriers and achieve what we need to achieve beyond just the high level things. So we have to permeate all the things that we do. Our way of living within an organization should reflect that gender parity across the practices. Thank you.
Sweeta's raised a good point, and perhaps you could pick that up on pressure women feel. Sometimes when you just raised or you hired into a position of sudden leadership position or a management position, it brings with it a whole lot of pressure. And it kind of comes across as the most capable person unable to manage because of the pressure. So, any thoughts on how we deal with that?
Cindy, could you say more about what pressure? I didn't fully understand.
Okay, I'll let PV respond and then I'll respond to you, Pooja. PV?
No, I think that Cleopas presented those slides. One of those slides spoke about, the mentorship program within the Tata Group. I think, all good organizations nowadays have these programs. When a lady gets promoted and when there is too much of pressure, that pressure can't be taken. I think that, it is always to reach out the mentors and then take support from them. We can also say that, why can't HR reach out to the lady and check? That also can be done. And again, it brings back to the point as to, what is the culture? We can put focus more and more on actions, activities. The point, which you and Smita touched upon at the beginning, these inequalities have been there for ages, and all these activities, actions, doing speeches and all that has been going on for ages. This is where, are we looking at it through our own lenses and then saying that, oh my God, what's happening? Or are we looking at it from the humanity perspective? Like I said at the beginning, it is about men and women, it's transgender, LGBT, it's diversity is about everybody put together. Once we forget about these labels and say that, I am a man, I need support from somebody, I think that, the culture addresses many of these issues in organizations. And I work for one such group. That's the reason why I brought up Tata's as an example. I think that, that's how I look at it.
There's a lot of awareness right now around that. Around self-responsibility, self-accountability, self-awareness, self-management, growth, self-growth. You're responsible for your self-growth too. And even how you're moving forward and developing yourself into the positions that you want and how you're taking ownership of that. There's a lot of self. Coming back to the question Smita was raising was more around the expectation of women. Smita, why don't you say it since you're right here?
Yeah, Cindy, that is actually by Vinita. Vinita has raised that question.
Okay, go ahead. You want to go ahead and raise the question?
Okay, so she says, when there is life pressure, you're talking about this one, right?
Yeah.
Women perform the best and do not drown. That is the awareness we need to take it forward everywhere. What is your thought on this?
Yeah, it's true, right? We do survive.
So I think, okay, so now that if I've understood her correctly, yeah, actually, I don't see it as a gender issue. And I think women like men, like any other being, is capable of handling pressure. If it's not, then it's to do with performance and not with gender. Yeah. So absolutely, I think, and so beat men, beat women, right? And so at times, so what I want to quote is many a times, we make issues which are not really a gender issue and they just become a gender issue. Now, for example, a woman in a leadership team is not able to handle, it gets extrapolated and, women is not able to handle a pressure. Maybe that could be one women and that could be a performance issue. And can we deal with it as a performance issue and get a coach or a mentor, depending on whatever it is, and not make it? Because in my view, and I'm sure all of us experience right now that women back at work or at the political level, what's happening in COVID, that, women are equally capable of. So completely. And I think what we need right now is I think, especially at the senior level, I think we need a lot of sponsors and we need people in the board. We need mandates in the board and the leadership to be taking these decisions and supporting us. That is what is needed really to shake this, this path forward.
Just to support Harpreet on that, I can only narrate one of my experiences. I think back in 2005, when I first became the CHRO of a multinational company, I was literally drowning because I didn't have a team. Three women rescued me out of it. In my entire function in such a large organization, and I can never ever forget them. I'm so grateful to them. So I look at it as I was under tremendous pressure. I need to do certain things, and there was nobody, and these three women, they did everything for me. I think that it's whether it is at work or in life situation, women excel. There is no doubt. My wife excels. My wife is much better than me in many aspects, and she has transformed herself, and she is an inspiration for me. It's again, I think that I'm a gender neutral guy. I respect all genders. I have more respect for women because I have been supported by more women in my life. But the experiences could be different for others.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We
agree.
There is a beautiful comment by Primrose on similar lines. So she says, as women, we have to move away from genderizing things and approaching things from a human perspective. So
exactly.
More what Dr. PV was saying, right? That way, inclusion can be addressed more effectively.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask the panel in a minute about closing thoughts, because we've reached the end of our time. And it's gone by too quickly because we can still go on talking about this topic. Let's hope we've started it and everyone else can continue with it. And Smita, there was a LinkedIn, there was a link for LinkedIn where we can continue the conversation. But what I want to say is first, and then hand over to my panelists, my closing thoughts are, thank you all for joining us today. And I know this is going to go on and we'll have viewers listening to it on YouTube. Our thoughts would be with you, and if there's any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And I also want to say thank you to Coacharya for giving us a space to, become more aware and to rise to different ways of doing things. That's my piece, and I'll hand over to my panelists for closing thoughts. PV?
Thank you. Thank you once again, Cindy, and thanks to Coacharya for this opportunity. It has been a lovely discussion. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And my closing thoughts would be, right, when we speak about bias, prejudice, and whatever is not happening right, all these things, I think that, first we need to begin with ourselves. It is looking deep within and understanding as to what bias am I bringing to the table in terms of the gender inequalities. That is the starting point. We want to change the world, there is no doubt about it, but to change the world, the starting point is us. Like somebody said, we have met our enemies, and it is us. The enemy is within us, the biases, the prejudices, all these things. It is not out there, somebody else doing it. It is inside, within us. Each one of us carry those biases, and that is where we need to address those things so that the environment all around us becomes beautiful, and slowly the world also becomes beautiful. These are my thoughts. Thank you. Thanks once again.
Pooja?
So I'm going to once again, yes, Cindy, thank you for inviting me into this space and for having this opportunity to, share this discussion and the panelists and getting to know you all, and also to Coacharya. So really resonating your thoughts there. I think the piece that I want to take away and hold on to would be this piece that we all talked about, that we are more than the gender we are. So, it's if I am more than what I think I am, so what am I? and to really pay attention to that, because there could be those barriers, those biases that keep us from fully grounding into our wholesome selves.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Harpreet?
Okay, so would like to thank Cindy, to you, Coacharya, and everybody for this really enriching discussion and, you know, different perspectives, and that's the beauty of it. And so my closing remark would be that, you know, we all see ourselves as a being while we appreciate our gender and are aware of it. And I feel that nobody is superior to each other. And I believe that not that women are superior to men or men superior, we're all equal. We are different. We are different. Our ways are different. Just like men, even we have a biases, right? And as what Kiwi said, for me, one mantra that really works, change inside you creates a change outside you, and that works faster. So I think it's all in the mind and in the heart. And let's just work on ourselves to make the world that we want to live in.
Thank you. Cleopas?
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Coacharya, for this great conference. I think I would say we need to revisit our patterns of thinking. We need to reorient ourselves around how do we function better? How do we get all people to participate in organizations and benefit from the diversities that we possess for effective strategy execution? So at the end of the day, every day we need to be thinking about this, we need to be talking about it, and we need to be doing it. So it's critical that we place more emphasis on acting and reviewing our actions and seeing how things are moving, so that we're able to drive the agenda around parity in gender and achieve our results as organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. Smita, you want to say anything to close off?
So thank you so much. It was wonderful listening to you all. The whole idea for this Awake, Aware, Arise is to, you know, create some thoughts in the mind, and everybody has been thanking for these for the thought-provoking discussion. I think now it's time to do some action, and if at all we can make some impact in one life that we are, you know, close to, and if we can make any impact, I think that can be the start point, and we can just build on. So awareness is the first, I think, with these conference topics that we've picked up for each session. I think that is provoking a lot of thoughts. So yeah, that's all I would like to say. And thank you to all the panelists. Cindy, thank you so much. This topic is, like I said, I mean, it's age old, but I think now with awareness, things are going to improve.
Thank you, participants and panelists.
Thank you all.
Everyone.
So we have
Bye.
two more
Thank you,
sessions
Smita.
coming up at
Thank you.
7:30 p.m. IST and 9:30 p.m. IST to join.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
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 Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you all. Bye.